Good morning and welcome everybody. Welcome to our live breakfast event. My name's Karen Williams. It's such a pleasure and a delight to be with you this morning. And we're doing it a little bit different this morning. I'm coming to you from my own home because I'm in Melbourne and we're in stage 4 lockdown. So we don't have our beautiful space at Creative Cubes with lots of space around us and big whiteboards, but we do have you and me. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So I'm being me and I'm being Georgie and I'm being James today. So if I get distracted or if I forget something, it's because I'm trying to be those 3 people. So just send me a reminder, say, Karen, back on track. So I'm excited for this conversation about how to be well, how to deal with stress and uncertainty, but how to be well through those feelings and experiences. So I've experienced a lot of this myself in my own journey, what the impact of stress does to our body, to our mind, and to our lives. And I've gone through quite a significant journey to understand what that's all about. So I look forward to sharing with you and, helping you understand for yourself what's the impact on you and how you can move through your stress and uncertainty and feel much better than maybe sometimes you might. So I'm just going to make sure that you can all hear me and that you're here. So I'm putting up the chat box. I'm hoping that I'm putting up the chat box because this is Georgie's job and she's all over it, but it's me today. So yes, good morning. Hello, everyone. So just letting me know that you're here. Hi, Daisy. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to come from my home to your home. Some people wonder sometimes what this is in the background, so that's why I put this little sign up to say welcome, so you know it's a whiteboard, because I don't go anywhere without my whiteboard. So those of you who are here for the first time, who I haven't met, I want to welcome you and say hello and good morning. Thank you for trusting yourself or maybe trusting a friend or colleague who's shared this event with you and jumping in and really investing in yourself today. There could be a million things that you could be doing right now, one of them tucked up in bed, and maybe you still are. But I really appreciate your time because you could have chosen to do many other things. And what I know about people who come to these webinars and people who I work with and who end up in front of me are people who are asking bigger questions and looking for some answers for themselves in their own lives, whether that's in their personal life or their professional life. So I welcome you to this conversation and look forward to hearing your thoughts as we go through this morning. For those of you who are returning, welcome to you as well. I'm excited that you're here and acknowledge you for continuing to invest in yourself. I really appreciate your courage and the level of inspiration and energy that you bring to these conversations and you're sharing with me. All of your comments after the sessions I read, all the comments that you make in the chat box. So feel free to keep sharing. We don't always get to every question and I don't always reply to everybody, but I do read all of your responses and your comments, and you are all in my mind and in my heart as I read them, because I'm like, okay, that's what's happening for that person. That's what happened last session. This is what's going on this session. So you're all there with me, and I really appreciate all the time that your time and your care in sharing where you're at and your courage in looking a bit deeper each time and building on what you're learning. So I can see that you're here. So welcome, Alison. Welcome, Anne. Welcome, Kelly. I can see Uliana, Daisy, and thank you, Lily. Hi. Georgie's here. Thanks, Georgie, cheering me on from the other side of the lens. So, all right. So I sent you might have seen that I sent you some documents yesterday. Now, it's okay if you don't have them with you. I'll be sharing with them, showing them for you today as well. But I'll get you to write them down and I'll draw it on the board, because when the brain to pen connection or the brain to hand connection is really important, helps us remember. And you'll have maybe remembered me say about Jim Quick. I love Jim Quick's work around the functionality of the brain and the capacity of the brain and how much we're not using in the brain, especially at 7:30 in the morning. So, but one of the things that he advocates for is writing things down, because otherwise we're forgetting at least 80% of what we heard and what we learned in the session. So grab your notebook, grab your pen, grab your cuppa. I've got my cuppa. So we'll get started. All right, so for those who I haven't met, just a quick little about me. I'm a coach, I'm a trainer and facilitator, and I have an amazing team with me as well. And I do a couple of things. We work with women in leadership and business, helping women lead with confidence, presence, and awareness so that they can expand their influence and walk into any room without apology, without anything to prove, justify, or explain, and no need to hide herself or clip her wings. So I love working with women in that space to understand what authentic confidence is all about. So I work with women in leadership and business at all levels of organisations and in their own business as well. We also work with organisations helping them transform their culture. So what I find leaders find is that people are distracted, especially in these challenging period, over lenses all the time, through the lens. People are distracted. They're maybe not focused on the right things. They're not feeling safe to collaborate across functions. And so we work with organisations from the leadership down to help transform the culture into one of being resilient, being connected and collaborative. So that's really passionate work of ours as well. And I love doing that work with leaders and teams. So let's get into the conversation about you, your well-being, and how to stay well through stress and uncertainty. It was about 10 years ago that I was on the kitchen floor, not this kitchen floor, but on the kitchen floor, a sobbing mess. I had taken quite a long journey to restore my health after being unwell, and I was frustrated that I still wasn't finding the answers. Everything I tried, it worked for a little while, and I thought, yes, this is the answer. And then a few months later, or 6 or 12 months later, I just went back to kind of a mediocrity in my well-being, in my vitality, and in my vibrancy. It was hard to get out of bed. The food that I was putting in didn't seem to make much difference at all. Little bits of difference, but not a lot. And I was just repeating the same pattern over and over. Anybody feel like that? And I was asking the questions like, there has to be some answers here. I'm not willing to spend the next 50 years of my life like this. I'm not willing to just survive. I'm not willing to flatline. I'm not willing to have a mediocre kind of energy level for the rest of my life. So I was determined to find answers, and in my determination and my discipline and my rigorous structure around my well-being, that was one of the things that was the blind spots for me that was holding me back, because I was so strict. But through lots of ups and downs over many years, what I discovered is that there's a formula. There's almost like a jigsaw puzzle of what our well-being requires from us to feel well every day. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because when I was a sobbing mess on that floor, I tried everything. I was doing a lot of natural therapies at the time. I'd given up on the medical profession by then. I was doing a lot of internal work. I was reading lots of different and amazing things, learning from lots of incredible people, leading edge information. And I was still struggling with what were the answers for me. And so this conversation with you today is about you finding your own answers, because I've had my journey, but what's your journey? And where are you at, and where do you want to be? And so my passion, my intention is for you to have some new insights this morning and to understand what could be in the way for you in any area of your life where you're not feeling completely vital and vibrant. Now, here's the thing I want to let you know. When there's vibrancy and vitality available to us, we're not necessarily 100% all day, every day in that space. There's going to be contrast. There's going to be times where we feel off, but those are important times, because if we tune into those feelings, we know that something's in the way. I was talking to an amazing woman yesterday, and we're having the same conversation about what's going on in our mind and what's going on in our body, and what are we feeling in our body that we can tune into, where there's some wisdom. Often what we do as human beings, because we've learned it from a very young age, is to not feel, not understand our emotions, kind of distract ourselves from our emotions, and then move away or push away from those things and that learning. And what we find when we get older, when the body starts to break down a little bit, or even when we're younger and the body starts to break down, is that there are answers within us that we're not actually listening to. And we know it innately, but there's fear there, isn't there? There's, well, what if I stop and listen? What am I going to hear that I might not like? And so when we're in high stress, the last thing we want to do is meditate, because there's such a distance between those two things. And so if you're telling yourself, yes, I know I must meditate, and you don't, that's okay. Be kind to yourself. Maybe that's too big a leap right now. maybe there's a small step that you can take, and we'll look at those today. So I'm hoping this is helpful. Let me know hey Mel, let me know that this is connecting for you and that this is making sense for you. Give me some thumbs up. I get to see the chat box myself today, so I'm excited about that. And just let me know that this is resonating for you all through the session. I will stop and give you time to reflect. I'll ask you some questions, and we might even do a poll as well. And also, if you've got specific questions where you'd like me to clarify something or go deeper, then ask me your question in the chat box, because that helps. I'm sure other people will have that same question, but that helps me help you, and that means we can go deeper and we can go broader when you're asking your questions. Yeah. All right. So with regard to stress can be a really helpful thing. So it can be something that we need in our lives to tell us, like, to give us a warning sign. So when we're driving in traffic, which we're not doing a lot of at the moment, and someone cuts us off, we have that stress response for a reaction, don't we? And our heart will race, and our blood will start pumping, and we can feel the adrenaline, and we'll feel a little bit hot, and we might take action immediately as an immediate response to keep ourselves and our family safe. And when the moment's over, we might go around in our head about that person and why they shouldn't have cut us off. But after a while, our energy comes back down. We return to what we call homeostasis. We return to a balance within ourselves. Yeah. And in the email I sent you, I shared with you that I'm not into balance, but I am into satisfaction. But this kind of balance within ourselves is really important. That feeling of calm and like openness, and that things can flow through, as opposed to tension and trying to force or control things. So the point here is that stress is really important in short bursts. It keeps us safe, it keeps us aware, and we can trust it. But when we're using it in our mind to internalize things, and that causes worry and then stress and anxiety and even depression at times, then that's when it's unhealthy. Yeah. Some stats from the Women's World Health Organization, and you'll find this information on womenshealth.gov. I was having a look at what they say, because, you know, I follow lots of leading edge experts on stress and the impact on the body, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I've shared with you before, and he talks significantly about this, and there's lots of information on YouTube in his interviews around what he feels is the impact of stress. But if you look at womenshealth.gov, there's information there on the importance of stress in our lives, but also when it's sustained stress and the impact it can have on our body. So I'm going to ask you to write down for yourself, for the first thing that we'll do today, what is the impact of stress on your body or on your life? So if you think about when you feel stress, the stress that you could feel from work. So maybe, you know, the workload. I'm hoping you can hear me when I turn here. So if you can't hear me, let me know. Workload at work. So things that could cause stress, workload, maybe conflict at work, or sometimes relationships that aren't working well at work. And I know sometimes we want to call other people toxic. And you've heard me, if you've been on a webinar before, you've heard me say that I don't use the word toxic about somebody. Sometimes there's toxic cultures, as in, or toxic dynamics in relationships, absolutely. But everyone's got a part to play in that, yes? So the causes of stress could be work and workload, conflict in relationships, you know, deadlines, feeling like we're not meeting expectations. What are your causes of stress at work? And so Sharon says that stress has a negative connotation. Yeah, I don't like the word referred to with use such as anxious or challenge, and that's fine, Sharon. Yep, it does. It does have have that negative connotation. It also depends on the meaning that you're adding. As I shared earlier, stress can actually be very helpful for us. It's a good indicator for us that something's not right, something's off balance, and we need to listen. But if those words work better for you, anxious or challenge, then use those. So what other areas for you at work feel like they trigger your stress? Sometimes there's a certain person at work that won't go near, and we'll walk around them physically, even literally, or we'll work around them, won't we? Or if we're in a meeting together, we might not actually speak up or challenge their ideas, even though we might want to, or even contribute to their ideas, because we might not feel that that will be received well. So all of that causes us stress, because when you're going into that meeting, you're already starting to worry about that person's reaction or their response, or what they might say to you. I was speaking to a leader earlier this week, and he was sharing with me about one of the challenges in his leadership team, where some people aren't working well together and they're kind of blaming each other. And there's always two stories, isn't there? Even though we feel like our story and our truth is the truth, then what I know to be true after 20 years of coaching is that there's more to the story than that. And so there's always blind spots for all of us. All right. So in our personal relationships, there can be stress when we have expectations of each other that aren't being met, or we're not feeling connected. So there's a lack of connection in our intimate relationships or our family relationships. Yeah, that can cause us stress. Rita says assistants being too slow to act on instructions. Sometimes that can cause stress when leaders want to move fast and look behind, and the people that support them aren't moving as fast. That can be very stressful. And so one of the things that the important dynamics of leadership is to understand how to engage those people and what their map of the world is and how you can connect. Because often what we want to do is, when we want to try and move people faster, and I've done this myself and sometimes still do, hey Georgie, is that I try and, make things happen. And that doesn't feel good to everybody around, and we can't do everything on our own. So it's about how do we connect and engage and influence in a way that serves that person and has them feel empowered. So that's the responsibility of leadership as well as the privilege. So what else have you got? When peers don't have commitment for work, running late between patients. Yep. Sound is good. Thank you, Kathy. Yes. And so those things, other people's behavior when you read too much into it. Yes. And so, that's a good one. So when we're always analysing what someone else is doing and then making it mean something about what they think about us or how well they're doing their job. And so we tell lots of stories in our mind, don't we? And there's, there's evidence to show us that the main cause of stress for us is what's going on in here. And so even though we're in challenging times at the moment, or unfamiliar times and uncertain times, I'm adamant and passionate and insatiably curious about how we can create our day every day from here, as opposed to, from the inside out, as opposed to what's coming at us. And it is possible. I know it can be challenging. It takes practice, but it is possible. And that's something that I want you to take away from today. So what other stresses do you have? So in your personal family relationships can cause you stress. Sometimes when we feel that there's obligation, can you see that board? Not quite. So obligations to family. So I know that when the family dynamic that was of my past, I always felt obligated to be there all the time with all of my family. And that didn't work for me eventually. I discovered that. But that had caused me stress over a long period of time, trying to meet expectations, trying to please. I don't have the book here with me, but if you haven't read Glennon Doyle's book called Untamed, you've got to read it. I'm still working through it, but it's just so easy to read. It's a beautiful book. And I'm like, yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. And even though we think that we're confident or, driven and determined people, and we are, there's still elements in all of us that want to please others. So it's a very powerful book, and you might see yourself in some of that. No personal space at home at the moment with everyone working from home. Yes, that's one of the things I wanted to acknowledge today, is that we're all in different spaces, aren't we? So some of us live alone like I do and haven't hugged someone in 5 months. So that, and sometimes if I can go and pay for a massage, at least that's some touch, but I can't even do that at the moment. So that's something that I have to manage within myself and make sure that I'm meditating more so that I'm connecting within, because that gives me that feeling of an internal hug. So there's that. And then the other extreme is someone like maybe yourself, Tracy, where everybody is there and there's just no space at all. And someone was sharing with me about that earlier this week, is just that, where do I find my space and how do I get out of the house and not feel guilty that I'm taking a walk, but I need it for my mental health. So that's really important as well. I'm in that second extreme. Yeah. There's a lot of people, yes, virtual hugs, of course. And there's a lot of people who are in that space where partners at home working as well, kids are at home homeschooling, and there doesn't feel like there's any space. What happens then, as actually I was sharing with someone yesterday, is that we can feel like, again, we should be meditating. I just need to get some calm. No, maybe you need to go out and go for a run. Maybe you need to get a boxing bag in the garage and bash that. Get the energy moving as opposed to try and be calm. And I know that sounds like the opposite, but sometimes it's like when you've had too much coffee and you're feeling a bit edgy, you actually, or you haven't eaten for a while. That's what happens for me. If I haven't eaten at the right times, I get a bit edgy. So it's that energy we need to move, isn't it? All right. So thank you for your sharing. I really appreciate it. Yeah, exactly. Needing a release, needing that escape, needing to make sure that moves through. Yeah. Thanks for acknowledging the living alone. I hear you, Tamara. I know. I think all of us feel like our sort of demographic doesn't get as much acknowledgement as the others. And so I hear you with the living alone piece. That can be really challenging, can't it? So lots of Zoom catch-ups with people, lots of time for meditation, self-care and self-preservation. And sometimes we can feel like we're not doing enough because we don't have family around us that we need to take care of. But, you know, one of the things I really advocate for at the moment is that we all respect each other's journey. They're all different and we're all doing the best we can. I got triggered yesterday when I went into my local deli to collect some things, and I just sanitized my hands, and I walked in and I passed sanitizer thinking I didn't need to, and she came at me so a woman came at me very quickly telling me to sanitize my hands, and it triggered me. I got really triggered about the mask and the sanitizer, and it started going off in my head. But then, you know, after a minute or two, I went, okay, she's doing the best that she can. So we all get triggered. All right, so you've got some great comments coming in here. Thank you so much. Professional rather than focusing on blaming one another within the team is more valuable for us all to focus on task-related challenges. Yes, focus on what we're working on together. And Tara says, guilt of trying to be available 24/7. Oh, yes. I recently did a video on guilt on my Instagram page. You might want to go have a look at that, because this conversation about guilt is really important, and one that women feel deeply, and also it's not the whole story, and I know men feel it as well, but I haven't met a woman yet, I don't think, in my 20 years of coaching who hasn't felt guilt in some way. So I think it's something that can be in a blind spot for us as well. Yes, shutting off from work, because work and home at the same place often at the moment, not for all states necessarily, but certainly for Victoria. Hard to take a lunch break. Yes, when people email. So the key thing here is boundaries, isn't it? We'll talk about that in a second. All right, I've got to manage my time. All right. So if we know all this stuff is happening in guilt, what's the impact of stress? What's the impact of stress on you? So I'm going to give you a moment, 1 minute, to write down what's the impact on your body and your mind and your relationships. Body, mind, relationships of stress. Okay? Take a moment to write down the impact on you. How does it feel? What happens for you? How does it impact your connection, communication with others, whether at work or at home? You can write it down, or you can write it down first, and then we'll listen to the chat box. Okay, some beautiful sharing. So it makes you irritable. Thanks, Lily. Sarah says tightness and tension in muscles, sweating, heart palpitations, tightness in chest, fast thoughts, busy mind. Poor eating habits. Yep. Tired, cranky, can't be bothered. Yep. Totally get that. I get run down. Yes. And unwell. Yes. Confusion is a big one when we're in stress. What happens is we've got so much going on in our head that we can't find the pathway through, and actually stopping and pausing for a moment and noticing what's going on in our mind is a great way to come back to clarity. We think clarity means doing more and we'll get clarity, or writing things down sometimes can help us get clarity. But the most powerful way I support leaders and people to find clarity, even in a coaching session, when they're getting really triggered or they're coming up against themselves in a big opportunity for a breakthrough, there's a big block there, then confusion can start to go around, because it's the ego or the identity that drives us into our stress doesn't want to be found out, doesn't want us to have that clarity. So it tries to keep us in that confusion. And what can help us if we just stop and pause and take a breath, if we're willing, then we can come back to ourselves and clarity. You'll find the answer is right there. Poor sleep, anxiety, low energy, so many impacts. Thank you for sharing your impacts. Upset, bad mood, blaming others, feeling tired, muscle tightness. I love that you're so clear on what the impacts of your stress are. Lots and lots and lots and lots. Okay. Hardens me emotionally. Kirsten, what a great share. It hardens me emotionally and find that I'm not listening to my kids and worries. Yes. So I start to dig in. Yes. What I've discovered or experienced through this last 5 or so months is the first wave, when that came through, and Australia as a country, generally speaking, in my view, now this is a broad statement, but in my view, we kind of dug in and survived and like, we'll get through this. Yes. And we thought, yep, there's an end to this. And there was an end, wasn't there, in a few months. And we sort of came through it and it's like, okay, dust ourselves off and let's get back into life. And then now with this second wave, what's happening is that people, in my experience, are still trying to survive it. And when we try and survive it, survival state, stress state isn't sustainable. Like I said, when we get cut off in the car, we will grumble for a few minutes, but we'll come back to balance and back to a calmer state. That's healthy stress. But if we stayed in that stress place, that every time we drove the car, we would not be an effective driver and we make ourselves very unwell. Yes. So the body can't sustain stress, a chronic state of stress. It will start to break down and our mental state is impacted as well. So with the harden me emotionally, with this second wave coming through, we're still trying to survive it because we haven't learned how to deal with our emotions. So there's all these strong emotions coming through. I'm experiencing the conversations I'm having: anger, frustration, overwhelm, despair, upset, difficulty in relationships, a pain in relationships, real heartache. And this experience is shining a light on some of those things that we haven't dealt with before, or we haven't allowed ourselves to experience and understand before, like our emotions. We've learned for a long time that emotions aren't welcome, especially in business. And so we just push on and get on with things. What this experience now is telling us that we aren't equipped to deal with our emotions, and leaders aren't equipped to know, with the skills to know how to help others move through their emotional triggers. So there's this big awakening now, or at least big awareness to, wow, we don't know how to deal with this. So as we try and survive this second wave in that stress state, trying to resist uncertainty, that's where we're going to find ourselves come undone. So this conversation is about helping you understand how to flow through uncertainty and, yes, feel stressed, but come back to center. All right. If Georgie was here, she'd be giving me the 30-minute flag. So I'm just checking in on that time. And the other point I wanted to make from what you shared, Kirsten, what you shared was, so when I'm in that state, I'm not really listening to my kids, am I? Because I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to get through and protect them, make everything okay. I'm worried about, everybody. I'm worried about health and well-being. I'm worried about our financial state. I'm worried for all of us, right? Because this is not specifically to you, but there's lots of those different elements for all of us. And so when we're in that, we're not present with our kids. We're not present with our partner. And so we know presence is important. We want to feel that in other people, but often we don't know how to give it, or we're so caught up in our mind that we aren't able to access that in the moment. So in that wellbeing wheel, which we go through now, that's what's going to help you. All right, very good. Thank you so much for sharing. I can't lift my body. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot at the moment. It takes a lot to get out of bed. Here's one practice I'd like you to write down. The night before, when you lie down in bed, before you go to sleep, I just want you to think of what are some things that you can appreciate. The other night, a couple of nights ago, I laid down and I just started appreciating my big toe. Like, wow, I've got a big toe. I've got 2 big toes. Started to appreciate the blood running through my body, that was going to be doing that through the night, even though I was sleeping. Just small things, which are really big things, aren't they? Finding those small things that we can appreciate and just start to feel the difference that feels for you in that moment. Drift off into a beautiful sleep. And then the next morning, there's a few milliseconds before we start to remember who we were yesterday and the problems that we have and the challenges of our life and the real powerful, impactful challenges of do I have a job? Do I have a future at the company that I'm working in now? What's going to happen to my health? What's going to happen to my family? So they're very real concerns, but we can't control any of that. We can't control COVID. We can't control what's happening potentially at our organisation. What we can control, though, is how we manage ourselves within that. So there's a few moments just before you remember who you are in the morning where you get to choose. And those are the moments. If you can breathe into those moments and remember and appreciate something, that will help you get out of bed in a different way. All right. Very good job so far, everyone. Gratitude before bed is so powerful. Yes. All right. So you know the impact of stress on your body. Yes. And so if you fast forward that another few months, another year, another few years, you can imagine what's going on for the body and what's going to start happening to it if it's not happening already, around how it's telling you that this isn't working for you. All right. So I want to, so yes. Okay. So there's pain, right? So now I want to go through the Wellbeing Wheel. So if you've got your Wellbeing Wheel, you might want to bring it out. This is the Wellbeing Wheel. Okay, so this is my journey. This is kind of indicates my journey from burnout to vibrant health over quite a period of time. Now, one of the reasons I love working with women around wellbeing is because I don't want it to take as long for you as it took for me to find my own answers. Okay, so you've got the answers within you. These conversations about you helping you find them. Okay, so has everyone got this? Grab it if you can. I know that you can't speak back to me, but you could put it in the chat box. I'm going, yes, great. Thanks, Melissa. Melissa, I know you did your homework last night. Well done. Helen's got it. Thank you, Helen. Hi, Helen. And tomorrow, yep. Okay, so a lot of us have got them. Thank you so much. Fantastic. So now, the Wellbeing Wheel, as I shared with you earlier, I went looking for lots of answers. I was unwell. Okay, between you and me, I dropped to about 43 kilos at one point when I was doing raw food and trying to fix myself. And 43 kilos, my period stopped and it was not nice. I came out in eczema all over my body because my body just wasn't handling the situation. But I was determined to get well and I was trying anything. So those are some of the extremes that I went to try and repair my physical well-being. But what I wasn't dealing with at the time was my mental health and my emotional health. And no matter what I did, no matter how many acupuncturists I went to, or kinesiologists or naturopaths, no matter whether I dehydrated my own pumpkin seeds, which I did, you know, how many green smoothies I took to work, I thought I was doing all the right things. Or hot yoga 5 times a week. All sorts of different things that I tried, bone broth, you know, and which I still love actually. So, you know, not going anywhere except for my kitchen for dinner. My social life suffered immensely. So I tried all of these things and I still wasn't getting well. It was because I didn't understand the emotional, mental connection and what my mind was doing to myself and my body in causing further stress. My worry, my anxiousness and anxiety, my feeling like I was never enough and a failure and not meeting expectations, even though I was working hard and I'd achieved a lot in my career to that point. So what I was doing to myself was what was causing the external situation in my body. Yeah. So the Wellbeing Wheel is the mirror or the depiction of my journey from being really unwell to finding that vibrant health. And so with you in the middle, so this is you, yes? And so I'll ask you to write this, thank you, Kath, but I don't share it, I don't share it for, I don't want to create a concern in anybody, yeah? You can see that I'm healthy and well now, but yeah, I totally receive and appreciate your empathy and connection on that. But so we all have our own journey, don't we? And so my passion now is really to help people understand what's going on inside them so they can have the vibrant, vital life that they want to have. And that it is possible no matter our age, right? So This is you in the middle. And so the first continuum, you'll notice if you've seen the Wellbeing Wheel, if you had a look at it last night, but if you don't, I'm drawing it now, and this is what it is. You'll see the first continuum is the connection with self, right? And the relationships we have. Now that's very different to what I was doing with my hot yoga and my green smoothies, but I didn't know that at the time. So connection is about coming back to self, finding that connection within ourselves. And that comes from meditation, journaling, time in nature, that real understanding of what's important to us. What do we value? What are our personal values? Yes. So what do we value? This is about alignment, and it's about understanding ourselves from within. So the self-awareness, but also the self-understanding. And also it's about honoring ourselves. And so that's about boundaries, isn't it? And I know one of the toughest things for us to set is boundaries with our family. Don't worry, I know, I get it. And you've got to do it. And so when you were sharing earlier, I think someone was sharing about, and this is very common, I know, for a lot of women and men at home, is that no space is, if you continue to tolerate the feeling of no space, it's going to hurt you, and then you're not going to be able to show up as your best as your family, and you know this already. So there is no substitute for having these real conversations with our family about what's okay and not okay by all of us. We have to have those conversations. And when we do, we understand ourselves in new ways. But we do it from a place of vulnerability and connection and owning our stuff, not blaming anybody else. Yeah. So those things, when we do that, this is the first piece of the whole wellbeing wheel, connection with self. Because if you're not doing that, everything else that you do is only going to go so far. It will help. Yeah, eating the right food, and we'll get to that in a second. But if you're not doing this piece, all of that's going to kind of only have a limit to the effectiveness. So where are you? So now the satisfaction rating. So I'm hoping this is all good. Everyone's with me, right? So the satisfaction rating, if you read the piece in the pre-work, and if you didn't, that's okay, I'm going to explain it now. So the wellbeing wheel for me is about how satisfied we are in each area of our lives, not whether we give ourselves a 10 out of 10 because we feel we've accomplished so much. Satisfaction is not about balance. It's about, okay, I think I'm a 3 in this area, but you know what? I'm satisfied with that right now because I'm at my capacity in that area, and that's all I can do right now. For example, when we have a baby, I have never had a baby, but maybe if you've had a baby, you'll know that there's not a lot of balance in your life. It's all about the baby. Yeah. So in those important times like that, or life-changing times, or big significant moments in our lives, there's not balance. And that's okay by us. At the time, we need to be fully immersed in what we're doing there. For me, my baby is my business. And so in starting and growing my business, there wasn't balance, and I was okay with that. So it's about level of satisfaction, rather than we've got to have a perfect balance. Because if we're trying to have a perfect balance in all areas of our life, we're setting ourselves up for failure, more guilt, and more stress and worry. Doesn't work, right? So this is not about balance. This is about your level of satisfaction. So I want you to rate for yourself out of 10 how satisfied you are and how much you're investing in yourself right now, in your meditation, journaling, or even understanding what meditation is, or even trying 5 minutes stopping and breathing for yourself. Time in nature, coming back to self, setting boundaries, knowing what my values are, those things. So I'd like you to write down your level of satisfaction for yourself in this moment of your connection with self. So just take a moment to do that. Thanks, Sarah. From a scale of 1 to 10. So out of 10, so very good question. So sometimes I skip the details because I think you can read my mind. So when a satisfaction level 1 is I'm not satisfied at all. I want to be doing more. It's really important to me, this area of my life, but I'm not doing enough according to what I want to be doing, as opposed to what other people think I should be doing or what others are doing. So that's level 1. Level 10 is I'm really satisfied with how much I'm investing in this area of my life. What I'm doing right now is perfect for me right now, and I'm really happy with that. So that's level 10. Yep. So level of satisfaction as opposed to doing action or what we think we should be doing. I hope that makes sense. Thanks for asking. Yeah. And that's okay, Angela. And so one of the things that's really important is to be kind to ourselves. If we're not doing the things that we want to do, this is about holding space for ourselves and going, you know what, it's okay that I'm a 1 or a 2 or whatever it is in this area. And just start to, create some space around gentleness. That's the first step to kind of letting this confusion and this stress and anger and worry go, okay? All right, so you've done that. The next piece here, what I've discovered for myself, the relationships are obviously really important. Have you ever been in a relationship though where you've tried to change that person, or you've loved their potential but haven't actually really loved and met them in the moment where they are? I've done that many times myself and discovered after a number of times that it doesn't work. And so it was arrogant of me to think that that person should be any different. It was exhausting trying to coax, encourage, even sometimes manipulate without even meaning to manipulate that person into being a particular way, because that's what I wanted in a relationship. So, and that can go for our intimate relationships or other relationships as well. So if we're doing that, if we're expecting someone to be different to who they actually are while staying with them, then we're not taking care of this. I don't care how you sugarcoat it, whether it's about, but they could be better and I know how amazing they are, and if they only knew how good they were, and you're trying to encourage them or motivate them every day, that's exhausting for you, but it's also unfair on them. If that has them be on the hook, and whether that's our extended family or whether that's our intimate relationship. Okay, so with your relationships, the relationships is about the quality of your relationship, but also the energy that you're bringing to the relationship. And whether that's a codependency, as you need to change to make me happy. If when you do that, I feel better, that's a level of codependency. And most of us have some level of codependency in our relationships and don't know it, because most of us aren't bringing a clean and clear energy based on the work that we do here to our relationships. We're usually wanting something from someone else to feel better, feel full, feel complete. Yes? So, thank you, Alison. Yeah. And so when we have that feeling of someone wants us to meet our potential, we might want it too, but it can be exhausting and cause stress on the inside. So the quality of our relationships is firstly about what we do here, and that we bring a full cup to give to our relationships without expectation of return. Now, I want you to hear me in the way that I mean this, because you get to choose who you be in a relationship with every day, whether you've got a wedding ring on or not, or whether you're in a long-term commitment or not. You get to choose that person every day. But often what we do is, over time, we start to expect things from them for us to stay in that relationship. And that's when it is a deep in codependency. So my question to you is, what are you bringing to your relationships? And have you let them off the hook to just be who they are and love them anyway? And yes, that takes discipline, and it's not easy, but I promise you the quality of your relationships will shift dramatically. Oh, thanks, Georgina, 15 minutes. Good, damn it. Thank you. All right, so rate yourself out of 10. These are the two most important ones anyway. So rate yourself out of 10. 1, I'm not satisfied in the work. Now that I've heard Karen speak about relationships and what I could be bringing to my relationships, I'm not sure I'm satisfied. So maybe that might be a 3 or 4 or 5 for you. Or I'm really satisfied. Yes, I'm doing this work consistently. I'm managing myself and my own expectations and all of that in my relationship. It doesn't mean you don't want certain things in your relationship, but are you bringing it to your relationship, or are you looking to your relationship to get it? So everyone do that, please. Yeah, struggle with this. We're concerned about partner's health. I totally get it, Anne. And your partner, if this is your partner, is on their journey. And the pain within us wants that to be better. It's because we're not willing to sit with the discomfort of our own pain. So try that on. But if you can, and so I feel you, right? So I'm not dismissing what you shared, but Anne shared the struggle with concern about partner's health. And I can imagine that, wanting our partner to feel better and trying to motivate, inspire, encourage them to do things to make them more healthy. But then there just comes that dependency, doesn't it? They become dependent on you to motivate them. You try and fix them. All right, so rating out of 10, has everyone done that? Unless I had an 8. I needed that, yeah. Thank you, Anne. Thank you for allowing me. All right, so 15 minutes, Georgina. Let's go. So the next piece is nutrition and movement. Okay, so what's the quality of nutrition that you're putting in your body? What's the, so are you eating at the times that you want to? And obviously at the moment, challenging, but just understanding what's my level of satisfaction. There's nothing wrong here. It's just being able to own, where am I at? So the quality of nutrition, are you eating at the times that you want to, especially at the moment? We often don't stop for lunch, do we? Or we just stop and grab something. Am I eating really late in the evening? That's not working for me. I need to shift that. Am I skipping breakfast? Is coffee my breakfast? Am I in that cycle of just needing that caffeine? And so if that is the case, that's okay. Just be okay with that and just look at your level of satisfaction. As I said, for me, my whole world was about nutrition for many years and understanding what I put in my body and why. But it's not the whole picture, because it didn't make me well. No matter what I put in my body or didn't put in my body, it didn't make me vibrant and vital to the level that I wanted to be on its own. So where are you at a rating of 10 in your level of satisfaction about how much time and thought, mainly the thought, you're investing in this area of your life? Not very satisfied at all. 10, really satisfied. Yeah. Tamara asks, one of my best friends is brilliant, but in a den career and does nothing to improve his situation. Do I leave him to flounder? Okay. So Tamara, what I would suggest here is to partner this person. So just be with them. Just hold the space for them. We all have, if we're willing to consider that we all have our own answers within us, and my stand in life is that you do, and so does he, then if you can just facilitate a space for him to be however he is, then I promise you he'll find his own answers more quickly than you could ever encourage him to find them. Yeah. So when we let go and let people be who they are, they'll rise like a cork to the top of the water, because everyone wants to rise. Okay. So it's just the greatest gift we can give someone is our listening and just holding space for them and being with them, being present. All right. So then the next one is movement. How are you moving your body? Are you moving it in a way that feels good to you, or are you kind of pushing it and forcing it and making it do things? Now, I'm all for going to the gym. I love the gym and I love doing the weights. Can't you tell? So no, not at the moment. But it's not the whole picture. Are you dancing? Are you flowing? Are you running along the beach? Are you stretching? What are the things that you're doing in this area? Are you satisfied in this area? So out of 10, what's my level of satisfaction? 1, I know I want to do all these things and I'm not doing them, and I'm using this experience right now of COVID to make excuses. Or at the moment, all I want to do is walk because I'm really satisfied with that, so I'm a 10 on that. If I go for a walk every day or most days, I'd rather be at the gym, but the gyms are closed in Melbourne, so I'm walking every day and I'm 100% satisfied with that, then that's a 10. So your level of satisfaction, okay? So everyone rating yourself on that. You're welcome to share your ratings if you'd like. Some people are sharing, so there's lots and lots of people on the call, so if you'd like to share, you're welcome to. Anna, 10, go girl. So remember, level of satisfaction, okay? All right, I've got 9 minutes. Goodness gracious, Karen Williams. So the next piece, so can you see how the arrows go in? And so that's because we're filling our cup, right? Because one of my challenges was I wanted to have this big life of contribution in a way that felt really good to me and lit me up, which is what my life is now and continues to grow in that space. But when I found myself unwell and I shrunk my life to get well, and I did all of this trying to get well and lots of this, then my life became this small insular life, and that didn't feel good to me either. I was bored then. Yeah, I shrunk, everything shrunk. my bank account shrunk, my activity shrunk in, you know, in how I was in the world. And so this area here of money and fulfillment is about, are we satisfied with our relationship with money, the flow of it in and out of our lives, how we create it? I'll use the word create rather than earn. How we create it in our lives, how we attract it into our lives. How satisfied are you in that? How much attention we give it, how much we love it. I learned a long time ago, and you may choose to believe or not believe this, that money is just a reflection of the value that we have on ourselves. For me, that's been absolutely true. When I was not valuing myself and feeling extremely unworthy, then my bank balance and the money that was coming in and that would stay in, I might earn a lot, but it wouldn't stay, was a reflection of that. And as I started to value myself more from an inside out perspective, everything changed. 4 out of 10 relationship, 10 out of 10 movement. Thank you, Anne, for sharing. So what's your relationship with money? Do you have a relationship with money in a way that you value it, it's kind to you, you're kind to it, and you're doing it with it what you want to do? That's completely up to you. Level 1, I'm not satisfied with that. Level 10, I'm very satisfied with what I'm doing in that area of my life. So rating that. And so as I'm sharing all of these sections, you can hear the ideas I'm giving you that you might think about, oh, that's something that I really want to take away from today and the action that I want to take. And then fulfillment is, in the way that I create and attract money into my life, am I fulfilled in that role, in that job, in that business, in what I do in the world, in the support that I provide so that my partner can do that? What is it? What's working for me there? Am I fulfilled in that area? Now, at the moment, we don't always have the opportunity. If we've got a job, maybe we feel really blessed. And so fulfillment, we might not think that we have the choice to go, well, it's not the right time to start a business, or it's not the right time to go and get my dream job. Maybe not. Maybe it is, maybe not. But doesn't mean you can't feel fulfilled in other areas of your life. So it might be contribution or voluntary work or serving others. Yeah. So service, voluntary, and just creating a level of fulfillment in your life that works for you. So out of 10, what's your level of fulfillment in this area of your life? And it might match where you're creating and attracting money. It might be the same thing. For me, it's absolutely the same thing. I'm having the time of my life, if you can't tell. But it took time to find that place. Yes, which is why I share this journey with you now, intending for you to find your fulfillment. And it might be matched to this, but it might not. And they can be two separate things and still be satisfied. Yeah. And then the last piece is contribution and community. Now, when I knew I wanted to make a big contribution in the world, for me, big, whatever that looks like, right? Could be local, in my community, in my family, in my community, at the school, for you, or it could be across Australia or in the state that you live in, or it could be globally. So what's the contribution you want to make? And for me, I wanted to make a contribution, but I didn't have the support around me, which is why this is on the same continuum. I didn't have the support around me. Only one person can only create so much. And so creating a network of people around you that you really feel support you and hear you and get you. Now, I have a beautiful network of people that I could choose on one hand that I could ring and say, hey, I need your support. Hey, I need some help. Hey, I'm not feeling so great today. Hey, can you hold space for me while I share and dump my feelings and frustrations and emotions? Because I need that to be able to continue what I do. And so you need the same. You need support. You need a network of people that you love around you. And I imagine that that's probably working really well for some of you, maybe even all of you. So what's the level of contribution? What's your level of satisfaction in that area out of 10? The contribution you want to make in your family, locally, community, school, even globally. Score yourself 1 out of 10. Yeah, beautiful, Mel. Thank you for sharing. The money one, difficult. I've struggled to find connection value. I feel grateful to have a secure job. Yeah. So Rita, thank you for saying I don't understand. So the contribution that you want to make in the world, Rita, you're making a contribution through your business as well. You maybe making a contribution to your family and the love and the support that you offer them and the work that you do on yourself so that you can do that. You might be making a contribution to your broader family or your network of friends in how you show up. So the contribution that I make with my friends is that I'm always present and listening. If I can't be present and listening, then I'll let them know and we'll have a conversation another time. So there's different levels of contribution that we make in the world, or level of contribution that I want to make is a global network of women who can pick up the phone to each other and go, hey, I've got this amazing idea. Can we create it together? Are you in? Yes, that's my idea of contribution when we have this amazing ripple effect across the world. So that's what contribution means out of 10. And community is your support network. How satisfied are you in your support network around you? Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Rita. Contribution, does it equal your purpose? It may, yes. Thank you. Great question, Nicola. It could equal your purpose, but it could also be the contribution that you make in different areas of your life. So it could be aligned to your life's purpose, if that's clear for you, or it could also be, what's the contribution I want to make in my family today? With what's happening in the world, with what's happening in my family this week, what's the contribution I want to make today? So it could be that kind of conversation as well. So it's about awareness first, isn't it? Understanding the level of contribution I want to make, knowing that you do make a contribution every day, no matter what you do, and it's been choosing what kind of contribution that you want to make. Do I want to make a contribution where people feel empowered and inspired around me? Or am I making a contribution where I'm trying to drag the conversation down and I don't know it, you know? All right, so good. Yeah, perfect, Kath. Gave myself 2 separate scores, one for family, one for work. Yeah, and so remember this is about satisfaction, my level of satisfaction in this area. All right, thank you for going with me. All right, so in this whole wellbeing wheel, and of course these are all connected, right? But it's not about balance, remember. What I would like you to do now is choose 1 or 2 areas. And it doesn't have to be a low score. It could be something that you've had a low score. But one area that you go, really right now, I want to invest more time, thought, conscious awareness into this area of my life. So choose 1 or 2 of those areas. Yeah, I hear that, Mel. Beautiful, Alison. Just realised I want to make a bigger contribution. Just got to work out how. Beautiful, Claudia. I help clients getting JobKeeper. Totally. Right, so just give you a moment. It's 8:30. Those who have to jump off, but I'll finish this and I'm going to go. Because I'm in control, I'm going to go over. Sorry, Georgie. And those who need to jump off. Those who want to stay can stay. I'll be about 2.5 minutes. So you've chosen your area, movement and relationship, Lily, thank you. Connection movement. And now what I would like you to do is write down 1 action that you're going to invest in that area that you've chosen. What's the action that you're going to take in that area? And write that down in your notebook. Move. Yes, Nicola, move. Get that energy moving. Melissa, move. Relationship, connection, movement, money and fulfillment. Amazing. Yeah. Make the time to improve my nutrition and movement. So nutrition and movement's a good one. If you're feeling erratic in the mind and you know that this is an important area for you, go move some energy and then sit on the couch and meditate 5 minutes. I promise you it'll change your life if you do that. So you might not be able to meditate now. This is for everyone because your mind is just going so fast, but go away, go for a run, go for a brisk walk, and then come back and then do some quiet time on the couch if you can, or on the toilet even. Just shut the door. No one will know that you're meditating and not actually in there doing what you need to do. All right. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I've loved coming through here from my home to your home. I'm passionate about continuing these webinars wherever we are. And so I really appreciate your time and your investment in yourself and sharing your space with me and allowing me to contribute to you. I really appreciate your trust and your conversation today. So I hope this has been helpful. I'd love to hear your comments in the chat box. I'll leave the chat box open for you to share your thoughts and insights, because as I said, I do read them all and I think of you all as I read them. I'd love to hear how this has been helpful for you. If you'd like to know more about my work, you can go to my website, KarenWilliams.com. I'm very active on Instagram and LinkedIn. I am Karen Williams is my LinkedIn and Instagram page, and I offer insights every day to support you and help inspire you and keep you uplifted, open and aware through your challenging times. So thank you again for this conversation. It's been a delight. Thank you for allowing me to share my wellbeing wheel. All right. Thank you all. Yes, amazing way to start the day. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate all of that. Oh, love you too, Rita. Thanks, Tracy. I really appreciate your comment. Go run, Anne. Thank you, everyone.